current reality of today, Afghanistan, is that Afghanistan is run by a group of people who only believe in weapon, gun, and suppressing people. It's a government that is not legitimate, a group of dictators who stripped away all the rights from the citizen. Not only women, but they have completely shut down the media. Very few media channels are there, TV channels and radio channels. So from 3,000 media stations now, maybe 10 or 15 media stations exist, and they're censored. They only need to follow the Taliban policy. They are in fighting with some of our neighboring countries. Recently, there was, as a result of the Taliban policy of protecting the Taliban of Pakistan, that Pakistan attacked Afghanistan, attacked Kabul. The political opposition do not have any space in Afghanistan. The government's institutions are not based on any kind of vote or will of people. It's a group of Taliban ruling Afghanistan. Basically, everything is about Taliban. Everything is by Taliban. And the impact of their policy is more on women, because today 18 million plus women in Afghanistan are stripped away from public and social life. So when we first time met 4 years ago, at least women could go to university. When the Taliban first came in 1996, they would allow women to become doctors if they were in grade 3 or 4 more senior students. But now they managed after 4 years to completely erase women. Many people describe this as gender apartheid, because they were able to strip away women from university, school, work. Women cannot go to see a doctor without male companion. Recently, for instance, there was earthquake in eastern Afghanistan. Many women lost lives because there was no female doctor, especially pregnant women. So if there are no doctors, can you imagine in another year or two, our health system will be completely disrupted. So Afghanistan has become, and recently they cut internet. So Afghanistan was in blackout with the rest of the world, which has had a huge impact on our work and on the mental health of people in Afghanistan, because we conduct online classes, education. You know, we talk with the people via virtual means like WhatsApp or Zoom or other. And all of this was disconnected. So I don't know where Taliban are taking Afghanistan, but it's not good for Afghanistan and it's not good for the rest of the world. It's power. They suppress women for their power, and they link it to our religion. Because if you see other Muslim countries, in some Muslim countries, actually women are leading. In the same country, Pakistan, where the Taliban had their families, their training centers, their businesses, there was a female prime minister. If you look at other countries, Indonesia, Malaysia, Saudi Arabia is now opening up. UAE has women ministers and ambassadors. Qatar, Doha, where the Taliban political office still exists. There are more women in education sphere than men. So the Taliban, I think it's power, and they use women's rights as a bargaining chip with the international community. Because what they do is, of course, in huge contradiction with Islamic principles. I believe the Taliban were never pressured politically and diplomatically. I think at some point the international community were fighting with the Taliban militarily through NATO and their military presence. After that, they withdrew from Afghanistan, and then they went to sign a deal with the Taliban. So the middle ground, which is the diplomatic pressure and the political pressure, and using the international accountability mechanisms like the ICJ, like the ICC, like the Human Rights Council, like, you know, giving the space to the political opposition to exercise their right and to work and talk about the future of their country and agree on a platform. That doesn't exist. Yes, I'm very grateful, especially for Spain, because Spain is leading some of the accountability mechanism. Recently, they helped in the European Union, in Human Rights Council, they adopted a resolution. It's called the investigative mechanism to investigate what's happening in Afghanistan in terms of human rights violation. And Spain was one of the leading countries. Of course, there were other countries who sponsored this and supported it. And we see this as a good step in terms of ensuring that these international mechanisms work, because we need to, we need to give the hope to the voiceless people that these institutions are here to protect you. So the ICJ must take a stronger action for violation of CEDAW, for instance. The ICC must bring more Taliban leaders. They have issued arrest warrant for 2 Taliban leaders, but it's not enough. They need to bring a Minister of Education, because he's the one issuing all the edict banning women from education. And banning women from education means banning women from work, means banning women from eventually from an income. And this will impact her life and her children's life. So it is crimes against humanity. And then the ICC should act. We need to recognize gender apartheid, because it is an apartheid what's happening in Afghanistan. So we are expecting more diplomatic pressure. In the meantime, I think eventually it's the people, the politicians, the activists who are outside and inside, they will change the situation, because it's our country. We need to change that. We don't have any other option. But then we need international community there to support us. Well, my message is, I think for international community, they must act now beyond humanitarian aid, but from a political and diplomatic perspective, before it's too late. Because we remember that the 70s, women got the right to, in Spain, the right to vote, the right to have bank account and go to outside. Now there are a lot of groups that are inspired by Taliban. So it's not only about women's rights that we're talking, asking the solidarity of the global community, but also about security. Because look what's happening in Afghanistan today in terms of hosting the TTP, the Tehrik Taliban Pakistan. 2 years ago, the leader of Al-Qaeda was killed in Afghanistan. What is the world waiting for? They're waiting for another 9/11 to be repeated. So I'm not asking international community to send NATO troops. It's not possible. I know they tried. What I'm asking is use the international accountability mechanisms like the ICC, the ICG, the Human Rights Council, the political pressure, the meetings they organize with Taliban. They need to hold them accountable for their statement. They need to give the space for women. I'm grateful for Spain. At least next month we are having this HERA summit, which will be big gathering of women and girls from Afghanistan. I hope other countries in Europe will follow the same, because this is what Europe is famous for and stand for. Afghanistan is not making headlines unless when the Taliban issue another edict, but the Taliban have been able to issue all the edicts and laws that they wanted to suppress women. It's finished. There is nothing left, no rights to take away from women. So yes, it's not making the headlines, but it's like a hidden tsunami. It is going to, today or tomorrow, explode. So once that explodes, then I think the world will not be able to manage it. It's better to have a strategy and a vision, work with people who are not only Taliban, with the rest of people in Afghanistan, 35 million plus opposition activists, for a way forward. It was not easy for us to ensure that there are 4 women in the negotiation for the first time in our history. It was the first time we were able to bring women in the negotiation. So 4 women out of 21 people that were negotiating with the Taliban. It wasn't easy. It was historic and for the first time, and I was one of them. We obviously wanted the ending, the outcome to be different. We wanted the outcome of this negotiation to be a peace agreement where we all live together in coexistence. The Taliban, one part of it, but the rest of society in Afghanistan, the ethnic groups, the religious groups, the women groups, people who are not Taliban in the rest of the Afghan society together. But it didn't end up that way. The Taliban, after they signed the deal with the United States, the ground was prepared for them and they were able to come to power. But we continue our resilience and we continue our struggle. So I think this film ends at some point, which is the negotiation ended, but then it restarts. It talks about how women of Afghanistan do not stop until they claim their country. Well, the peace process, the Doha Agreement says that there should be a political process. So the Taliban came to power, but that political process is still needed. And I think the Americans should hold Taliban accountable for not keeping that political process. Because for Taliban, they think the political agenda is over. They are now in control of Afghanistan. They don't need a political process. But for the people of Afghanistan, a political process means having a government that is accepted by them and legitimate and based on their wish. That is something that is still missing from that peace process. So we are trying to do everything to return power back to people. Well, I believe future could be different in Afghanistan, and my belief comes from my people, because 4 years after the Taliban take over, they have not surrendered. The spirit of fighting for freedom is still there, especially among women. And we know from a theory perspective, no power can run based on dictatorship. The Taliban cannot be sustainable because they are not recognized internationally, they are not recognized nationally. And we know that no country can be ruled by dictatorship who do not believe in inclusivity, who do not believe in Afghanistan that is transformed. So my hope comes from my people, and I think together with them, we will change the situation.